obviously the US is controlled
Now,
by Zionists. And
yes.
yeah, go on.
So look, the US as a sovereign nation just has $38 trillion of debt. All of the assets are owned by corporate interest. So America does not own any sovereign wealth. All it has is liabilities. And so the power structure is those that actually own America, which is the
Which
companies.
is the
Yeah.
corporations, right?
Now those.
Yeah,
Now,
we're in agreement. So we're in agreement that the corporations have a financial control over the United States of America. Obviously, we disagree on who those corporations are because the problem you have is when you take someone like BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. Yeah, the CEOs may be Jewish Zionists, but then when you look at the specifics in the shareholding, the structure is so complex that one can't actually ascertain who are the real owners, and then that's used as a camouflage to say, look, they don't control things, the Zionists don't
yeah,
control
but
anything.
here's the same thing, right? You keep saying Israel. Israel doesn't have a sovereign
When I
wealth.
say Israel, I'm just trying to be careful not to say Jews
Yeah,
because I know I'm gonna be. I mean
but
Zionists, right?
who
And so
actually benefits? If you look at who benefits from all of this operation, it's the Israeli stock market and the US stock market. And so those that own those assets, and Israel doesn't, as a sovereign nation,
why
is
why
like
why the
America.
Israeli stock? Is it only those two stock markets that
Oh
benefit?
no, I mean but well, the Venezuelan one has benefited from this as well.
Well,
But what?
that's a very that's a very. I mean, look, that's a very small snapshot of a situation that's occurred within a week where some people, are bullish, thinking that now United States is in charge, therefore it's going to be a safe country. Even I saw a post where someone's like, "I'm going to
Yeah,
buy
but
a
the
house in Venezuela."
Venezuelan stock
But
exchange is owned by a very small elite group of financial institutions and leaders. So Maduro would have made a lot of
within
money
within
from
clo-
this.
within Venezuela, right?
Within Venezuela, yes, it's very
Yeah, yeah,
insulated.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
the elites in Venezuela, the those that own the largest positions in the U.S. stocks. And now I'm not talking about this operation, but in general, what has happened in Israel is the same thing that's happened in America. The value has moved away from the sovereign nation and over to the stock market. And so throughout this whole operation, Israel's economy was being decimated, their debt was increasing, but the stock market was going up because they
And
got,
who's the companies in charge of the stock market?
well,
Not just
it,
up, it doubled. It doubled since October 7th.
See the
Well,
problem.
woman,
The
there's
well,
problem.
also
they
been real
own,
quickly, everybody focuses on the stock market, and the stock market is literally over levered, probably over 10 shares to every real share that's out there. What the families
That's
and the
true as well.
billionaires have been doing, they have been buying up and acquiring hard assets. Stock market could go tomorrow, and the same families, religious organizations, and other entities that have been around a long time before the fake state of Israel will get even more rich and land rich. Everyone's focused on this stock market. Nobody's focused on hard assets and land.
well, no, but
And the
that
two,
is the, you're exactly right. That is the mercantilism model. That was the British Empire. It was to print money, bankrupt the government, transfer it over to the British East India Company, and then end up with all the gold that the government spent. And so you enslave the people in debt, the privatization of all the assets, and then you take the gold and then you execute a war and you hand it over to the next empire. So the end is that you want the hard assets and you use fiat currency, and then you leave the debt with the people. That's what's happening to America, and that's what's happening to Israel as well. So as a sovereign nation, it's not benefiting at all. But as a stock market, it's completely benefiting, which is a
Yeah,
series
but
of funds, institutions, and
yeah,
individuals.
but this is obfuscating the reality, which is that the people benefiting. Oh, gold's just surpassed 4,500 as well, apparently. But the people who are benefiting significantly right now are, as you said, it's the corporations, it's the millionaires, it's the people in power, the people who are really in power, the rich. And so when you look at those people, they very much are Zionist. And I think that's where the thing is. And so when you look at it, what solely as the financial aspect, right, and you just focusing on that, you can kind of obfuscate in maybe Singer isn't, it's other complex structures. You could be like, oh, guess what, Larry Ellison isn't taking control because of some other blag, or this person's not taking control because of some other blag. But in reality, when you look at it, yeah, when you look at the media, it's completely controlled by them. Now you could be like, because obviously we've had this discussion many times, but you could be like, oh, guess what? They've taken over TikTok, but like actually, percentages is the shareholders matter more than anything else. But I mean, look, this is just taken away from the reality of of the situation. There's a reason why they've taken over TikTok. There's a reason why they've taken control of it. If you look at Oracle, there's a reason why they've basically you look at it, nearly all the people who are basically developing these data centers, such as in Oracle, are Jewish Zionist or Zionist. And there's a reason why this media control is happening by them. Then you've got the financial control happening by them, and then you've got all aspects. And in reality, if the control wasn't happening in the way it was happening, we wouldn't be seeing these draconian measures that are being put in place for Zionism. And so, and by the way, I don't think when I say Zionism, I don't mean the state of Israel. I mean this ideological group that believes in supremacy, because, and I do believe that these people have existed for thousands of years and impacted world religions, ideologies, and various things. And so when you take those things into consideration, this idea that, look, we're gonna ignore every single time something happens and be like, there's some hidden thing which no one can see and no one can believe, or no one can see and no one can feel, and it's part of these shell corporations, and really that's going to be they're hiding the fact that the Zionists are not there. So you look at BlackRock, you look at State Street, you look at Vanguard, you look at all of those corporations. Like, I was looking into them, and you just can't ascertain who literally owns the majority of them. And so the problem, and the reason is because these people hide what the real ownership is. Now you would then say, oh, guess what, then they don't own this company. But then you look at it and they taking over a huge number of assets, and we're not able to ascertain the specifics what happened. But what we do know is that the people that they've put in charge to implement what the group wants are Jewish Zionists or Zionists, and that's where this kind of disconnect is between, I think, my position, your position,
Yeah,
Simon,
well,
and this now.
I get that, but if you think of what is Israel, Israel is
And by
strategically.
the way, your position, and I know this doesn't diminish your position, by the way, in my view, but for a lot of people it would. But why I'm used to having this conversation is because every time I debate a Zionist, they have the same position as you, because they try and hide the fact that their people or their group, ideological group, run things and control things. And if you look at every single debate I'm having with Zionists now, this is literally the same conversation that happens each and every single time. But I know that's
So
not your reason for it. You've been
can
Yeah,
speaking
I
out
mean,
against it
but
for the
yeah, I
past
mean,
how many
they
years?
obviously.
Yeah.
can I chime in real quick, guys? Just because I think that you guys are coming to the right spot with the discussion. The Jews are just coin clippers for the powers. Because if you start thinking about what happened in World War II, look at Operation Gladio. That's exactly what the Abraham Accords are now and the Isaac Accords are now, too. The people that were involved, a lot of the Nazis that supposedly lost the war, they went into founding NATO. So we're literally creating other power constraint structures. The Zionist was a made up fake ideology for people to literally consolidate powers and depopulate the world. And that's exactly what they're doing now. These Zionists don't give a fuck about Israel. They're making it an ideology. They would live in Israel if they gave a fuck about Israel. They're using that
They
as an
gave a what?
excuse.
Sorry, Timmy, I thought you dropped an F-bomb, but I'm pretty sure you didn't,
Oh,
right?
sorry. No, I retracted. I apologize, Khaleesi.
All good, carry on.
So they're using it for an ideology, the way that they sell the ideologies, and then everyone's going to keep pointing blame at Israel because that's the bag man that they're able to do it. A lot of people, they're crazy. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying the Zionists are horrible people and people bought into
Wait,
the
I don't get it. I don't get
ideology.
your point. So you're saying, I think your point's very similar to Simon. So you're saying Zionists aren't bothered about the state of Israel. They don't believe in any of this eschatology, whether you're a Jewish Zionist, a Christian Zionist, or a Muslim Zionist. They don't believe in the rapture. They don't believe in any of those things. They're just pretending.
That's not. No, no,
Exactly.
no. That's not my position. There is an ideology that is used and weaponized by real power, and Zionism, religion. I guess you call quote unquote radical Islam. All these different things. These are weapons and tools in order to galvanize an army of useful idiots. And so, at the very top of power structure, maybe a couple of them believe that they're trying to return the Messiah, but most of them are asset stripping the world and don't give a shit about the return of the Messiah or the country. So just like Trump pretends that he cares about America while he's asset stripping America for financial powers and greater powers, it's rhetoric. And Zionism. If you can say Zionists
So
rule the world, then you
yeah,
give a lot of power to the ideology that is essentially asset stripping Israel and America, but it's not all going to
because
Jews. It's
bec-
certainly not going
because
to
the
Jews.
because the well, I didn't say Jews. That's coming from you.
They're not all
But
going to Christian, and they're not all going. Well, you could call them all Zionists, but while asset stripping Israel and America makes a shit ton of money, they'll be Zionists. When it doesn't, they won't be Zionists anymore.
yeah, so in reality,
Exactly.
yeah, so I that's where I disagree, because in reality, if it was solely about making money and solely about those specific things that you're talking about, you would have a wide berth or a wide perspective of people who then were able to get into those positions of power. I've had many, even offline, I've had many conversations with people where basically, if you're a Zionist, it's very easy for you to get into certain positions, get into
But
certain
they're
roles,
the
and so on and
battering
so
ram.
forth.
The person that takes the CEO rob, the role, the person that takes the president, the person that becomes the congressman,
That's according, okay,
they're the
that's according to
battering
you.
ram for real
And
power.
who's doing the, okay, so who's doing the battering?
What I'm saying is they're
Who's, now, one
yeah.
second, let's go to your opinion. Who's doing the battering?
The LPs and the shareholders. CEO is just
Okay,
literally
who's the
the
shareholders?
The
fiduciary
CEO is the
responsible
manager.
person to the investors.
Who's the
Yeah.
shareholder? Who's the shareholder? Let's take BlackRock. Who's the shareholders?
Well,
They're all
BlackRock's an interesting one too because they structure SPVs. Like everybody thinks Larry Fink is the control. He literally has to do the various things that billionaires and sovereign wealth funds, they will approach BlackRock and say like, "Hey, I want to buy $300 million of municipal debt for the state of Michigan. Structure a fund so no one knows it's me." People go to them to be the bad guy so that they don't have the stink on them.
Okay, so let's just deal with one thing at a time. Who are, because you guys, you and Simon always say this, so I want to know the specifics. Who are the shareholders of BlackRock?
the sovereign wealth funds, institutional
Which ones?
shareholders at investment bank,
What
Kuwaiti,
percentage?
Kuwaiti, Abu Dhabi, Saudi, UAE.
What percentage do they have?
They've got probably about probably across the about 10-15% across the different sovereign wealth
No,
funds.
of BlackRock.
It's
Let's go with
high
BlackRock
single
first.
digit, low double digit approximately. And then you got the Wallenberg family also that nobody ever talks about that started Ericsson Wireless, a Swedish family that also owns 10% of the Nasdaq exchange. Like there's the old money, the real money. No one on this panel knows the real money's name because it's quiet and they stay silent on purpose and they let other loudmouths like Elon Musk go out
So
there.
who's
If
the
Tesla's
so
stock
who's
price,
I've heard,
go ahead.
listen, I've heard this argument before. I've heard it from people who will say these quiet people are not Zionists. They'll say they're Muslim. They'll also say, guess what? It's the Illuminati. It's the
It's
13
it's
secret
wealth.
families.
It's
They'll
wealth.
say Qatar.
It's the Freemasons. So I've heard these arguments before. I'm asking specifically when it comes to BlackRock, who are the biggest
A
shareholders?
bunch of institutional investors, got BlackRock,
So
State
I'll
Street,
read them out. I'll
Vanguard.
read them out.
Yeah,
The reason I'm asking is because let me read it out. Okay. So Vanguard, and the problem is when you check Vanguard, it ends up being BlackRock, Straight Street, the same.
yeah.
All
It's
of these.
that's because they're all owned by wealth, and if you become
Yeah.
wealthy,
Okay.
you get
But
to
no, but
buy.
you're saying that. You're saying that. But when you go down it, it's always the same people who own it. This is the thing what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah, but it's
when you
other
say,
people's money invested into it, Suleiman. If it wasn't every person on Main Street actually investing into ETFs, they wouldn't have the money to buy each other. So if people start withdrawing their money, their investment out of those funds, then suddenly their purchasing power goes away. They'll still be billionaires, but they won't have $1 trillion of assets to go and buy stuff with other people's money.
sorry, I was too busy in the comments. Say that again. Sorry, the last point.
So if people start withdrawing their money, like everybody in America starts withdrawing their funds, like their 401ks and their personal investments from Vanguard and BlackRock and Blackstone, then they won't have the purchasing power of $1 trillion or $2 trillion. They'll only have their personal net worth, which will probably be low single digit billions, which is still a lot of money, but they won't be rulers of the world at that point. They'll just be really rich people that can go wherever they want, whenever they want.
That's correct because it's all structural, and it's somewhat of a decentralized network rather than a small organized cabal, based upon how much wealth you have, and wealth always changes. And the reality is that who owns BlackRock? changes significantly based upon the whole construct of Chinese wealth and Gulf sovereign wealth and Norwegian wealth. And they're the and they're the ones that become the shareholders because BlackRock pulls together all of these different sovereign wealth funds, which changes based upon better political decisions.
Yeah, so coming back to, sorry, I was too busy fighting with somebody else on the chat. Right. So, bro, listen, like I get triggered. You're a high, no fight. So anyway, just on this, let me just come back to of the point I was making about BlackRock, and actually the same applies to others. Is when you look at BlackRock, the main owners, and we're just being repeating, but the point is the main owners, the number one owner of BlackRock is Vanguard. They have 9% ownership of BlackRock. Then you've got BlackRock Inc. itself, which is a self-held via funds of 7%. You then have State Street Corporation, which is owns 4% of Vanguard. Then you have Temasek Holdings, which is a private limited company that owns Vanguard. So already we're in the top four there. And the issue you've got is I haven't checked Temasek, but the point being, there's it says Singaporean, but you'll have to look at the specifics of the ownership of that. But the
That's the
point being,
Singapore sovereign
There's a
wealth fund. Yeah.
Singaporean wealth fund. Yeah.
Singaporean
So
as
when
well,
when a
wealth fund, right?
country like Singapore succeeds and they build sovereign wealth, they become a player in this network. And
Yeah, so they've got 3%. Then Bank of America's got 3%. Then the Capital Research Global Investors have got 2.45%. Then you got Morgan Stanley, which has got about 2%. And so you're seeing these same
But
corporations.
but, but
Yeah, go on.
Suleiman, what you're doing. Just so you understand, and this is something that happens a lot. The LP is not the same as the owners of the stock, right? Like the people providing liquidity to BlackRock is not the same thing as owning BlackRock stock, right? The people who own BlackRock is one thing, and then the funds that BlackRock controls for people, they're two separate things.
yeah, and if you're
So
BlackRock
who
and
are the
you're trying
owners?
to and
Who are the owners of
yeah, but
BlackRock?
if you're BlackRock and
More funds.
you're trying to secure,
Exactly.
yeah, but if you're BlackRock and you're trying to secure a new infrastructure network, like a lot of your portfolio companies depend upon working with China, then you're going to negotiate leverage in allowing Chinese money in order to meet certain demands that meet optimizing the portfolio value. And so in that, if everyone thinks that all of the ownership of all of that is just a bunch of Zionists, we'll never concrete be able to get to the very end of the Cayman Island structure. But having that, all of these are subjected to public company level governance, and all of those shareholders, they get their proportionate voting right in the major decisions that are made, and it
Right.
will.
And
Give me an example. Give me an
and
example.
zero and zero
Give me an
control will have
example
the 9
of
trillion